Who will stand with God? Come and join me. This is an important moment. For the first time in more than 60 years, pieces of an old religious book have been found. The story of Adam and Eve is known in many different cultures. The Garden of Eden story is still one of the most interesting tales. An old story kept in the Sefer Temuna gives us a special way to look at it. For thousands of years, the story of Adam and Eve, with the forbidden fruit, the snake's lies, and how they were kicked out of paradise, has stayed strong in our minds. All humans come from that first man, Adam. Is there more to this story? For years, smart people have looked for this hidden book. Now, people who dig up old things say they have found it. The books of Adam and Eve were discovered in King Tut's tomb and printed in 1926. This is one of the oldest books that still exists. It comes from Egypt during the very early days of Christianity and is being sold at an auction. This book tells what happened to Adam and Eve after they were thrown out of Eden. While experts argue about whether it's real and how old it is, the books show us what ancient people believed. The Greek name is the Apocalypse of Moses. Paul probably knew about this book, as mentioned in 2 Corinthians. First shown as Moses' dream, the Latin version starts with an English translation. Most scholars think it was written in the 1st century CE in a Middle Eastern language. Who will stand with God? Come and join me. The story was probably told out loud for many generations before someone wrote it down. The oldest Latin copies are from the 9th, 10th, and 12th centuries. This book's history is unclear because people thought it was fake for a long time, religious writing wrongly said to be by famous people. The book was left out of the official Bible because it caused arguments. Though some think it's not real, the work gives us important ideas about early Bible events. This text is basically stories passed down through families, connecting when humans were created with when it was written down. All people come from Adam. The story is just starting. The book of Adam and Eve records what happened after they were kicked out of Eden. It's also called the contradiction of Adam and Eve, or the fight with Satan. According to the story, Satan told them, "The fruit is really good for you, but God doesn't want you to eat it." Satan tried to convince them, saying, "You can't trust God." An unknown Egyptian writer probably first made this story in Arabic, then it was changed into Ethiopian. Many smart people think it was created decades before Jesus was born. The book was first printed in English in the 1800s. The text has 2 parts. Book 1 tells about Adam and Eve's trip after leaving Eden, including Satan's tricks. It shows that Cain and Abel had twin sisters. Cain killed Abel because he was jealous. He loved his twin sister Lulua, but his parents wanted him to marry Aklima, Abel's twin. The second book focuses on the history of important fathers before the Big Flood. It tells about Seth's children who lived on Mount Hermon until Jenan and Cain's daughters talked them into leaving. As fallen angels, they lost God's blessing. The story tells how blind Lamech killed Cain and about other important fathers leading to Noah's birth. In the first book, the cursed snake tries to hurt Adam and Eve, but God steps in, making the snake unable to speak and sending it away to India. Satan keeps trying to trick and kill them. In one case, he throws a huge rock to crush them, but God saves them, comparing this to Christ's future coming back to life. God also predicts important Bible events, including Noah's flood. Book 1 focuses on Adam's sadness and helplessness after leaving Eden. When God threw them out of the garden, he carefully avoided putting them at the northern edge so they wouldn't wash in those waters and forget their sin. He avoided the southern side where wind might bring the garden's sweet smell. Instead, God sent Adam to the western border, where the land was big and open. They were told to live in the cave of treasures under the garden. When they left, they walked on ground they didn't know, not knowing where they were. Seeing the huge earth covered with rocks and sand, they became scared and fell down. Feeling like they had died, having come from a beautiful garden, they were now in a strange place. Seeing their pain, God felt sorry for them. When he saw them fall at the gate, he sent his word to lift them up. Adam and Eve cried as they looked at their changed bodies and felt sorry. They walked to the cave of treasures. As they got close, Adam said sadly, "This cave is so small and dark, with all these rocks around us." He was upset about the cave's smallness and darkness. Nothing could match the garden's light and beauty. Adam didn't want to go in, but accepted God's order, knowing he would sin again if he didn't obey. On the 43rd day, they came out weak and hungry from not eating and praying about their sin. They climbed the western mountain to ask God to forgive them. In their sadness, they prayed for mercy. But something unexpected happened. God looked at Adam's crying and spoke, "Adam, when you were in the garden, you didn't know hunger or pain. You had no weakness or lack of sleep. But now, in this foreign land, you face new problems." Then God told the cherub to take fruit from the fig tree and give it to Adam. The cherub brought 2 figs on branches, throwing them from far away, as their bodies couldn't get close to the fire. Before, angels had been afraid of Adam, but now he was afraid of them. They took the figs and remembered them from trees where they had hidden. They cried hard, realizing what the fruit meant. Meanwhile, Satan and 10 followers changed into beautiful young women. These women came out of the river, amazed at how Adam and Eve looked. They wondered out loud, "Is there another world below filled with such lovely people?" The women told them, "We are many creations, growing through marriage and having children." When Adam asked about how they multiplied, they explained, "We have husbands who father children." These children grow up, marry, and have their own children. The women called their families to join them by the river. Seeing this, Adam and Eve were amazed. The women encouraged them, "Do what we do and marry. You too can have children." This was Satan's trick to fool Adam. His plan used Adam's earlier disobedience, thinking that since Adam had eaten forbidden fruit without dying, God's commands could be ignored. He decided on death, diseases, and troubles until Adam would leave his body. If Adam could be tricked into taking Eve without God's clear command, God would destroy him. The desire to sin took hold of Adam. He thought about giving in but stopped himself, fearing disobedience would cause death. In worry, they turned to God in prayer while Satan's followers went back to the river. They returned to the cave of treasures praying all night. Adam, standing in prayer, wasn't sure how to pray as his heart was troubled by thoughts of marrying Eve. He stayed like this until morning. God was happy with Adam's honesty, seeing his heart's prayer. God's word came to Adam, "If only you had shown this care from the beginning, before leaving the garden." Soon after, God sent angels who had brought gold, incense, and myrrh, telling him his respect for marriage's holiness was noticed. The angels told Adam, "Take the gold and give it to Eve as a wedding gift. Give her incense and myrrh, binding her to you in marriage." Adam listened, put gold in Eve's clothes, and promised to marry her. The angels then told them both, "Don't eat and pray for 40 days. After that time, Adam, unite with your wife, and your union will be pure, making sure children who will multiply and fill the earth." They accepted the guidance, and after 40 days of not eating and praying, they came together as told. From Adam's leaving the garden until his marriage to Eve, 223 days passed. Satan's attempt to fool Adam had failed, but the story continued. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. thank you very much. When it was time for Eve to have her baby, she was in terrible pain. Adam's heart broke watching her suffer, and he begged God for help. "Please, make my wife's pain stop," he cried out, scared she might die. God saw how much Eve was hurting and came to help her. She had twins, a boy and a girl. After Seth was born, Adam lived for 800 more years and had many more children. Adam felt so relieved that Eve got better and they had healthy babies. He took care of Eve for 8 days after she gave birth. They called their son Cain, which means one who hates, because even before he was born, he seemed to hate his twin sister. The daughter was named Lulua, meaning beautiful one, because she was even prettier than her mother. After nursing the babies for 40 days, Adam said, "We should make an offering to God for our children." Eve nodded and agreed. "Yes, let's offer gifts for Cain first, then for Lulua after 80 days. Soon, Eve was expecting again and had another set of twins. The boy was Abel, and the girl was Aklima. Just like before, Adam said, "We must make offerings for Abel after 40 days and for Aklima after 80. The children got bigger and stronger, but Cain's heart became hard and mean. He started pushing Abel around and being bossy. Abel stayed gentle and kind, always listening to his parents. In the second part of the story, the sons of God, mentioned in Genesis chapter 6, verse 2, were the children and grandchildren of Seth. The daughters of men were from Cain's family. A man named Jenun led Cain's people and convinced Seth's family to leave their holy mountain and come down to the valley. Jenun, who people say invented musical instruments, though others credit Jubal, also made weapons for fighting, usually credited to Tubal-Cain. Cain, the first person to commit murder, talked to his brother Abel one day. Out in the field, Cain said, "Come here, Abel," and then attacked and killed him. The people who came from Cain, called Canaanites, became famous for doing awful things. They murdered people and committed terrible sins within families. After they corrupted Seth's family, their children became the Nephilim, the powerful giants described in Genesis chapter 6. These creatures were wiped out in the Great Flood, as told in the book of Enoch and Jubilees. Stories about how the world began have always amazed people, giving us answers about why we exist. In Jewish and Christian traditions, 2 main stories stand out: Genesis and the book of Adam and Eve. While both talk about God creating everything and humanity's important role, they show different pictures of God, people, and the battle between good and evil. Genesis, which people traditionally say Moses wrote, was probably put together from many spoken stories told over many years, making it hard to know exactly who wrote it. Genesis is super important to Jewish and Christian people who believe God inspired it. The book of Adam and Eve, however, isn't part of official religious books. Several versions exist, mostly written around the 1st century AD. Even though it's not official, it has shaped how some Christians think about things. One big difference is how they tell the creation story. Genesis gives us a grand, organized account where God speaks everything into existence over 6 days, showing God's amazing power. People are created in God's image on the 6th day. Genesis chapter 2 gives more details about how people were made, with God forming Adam from dirt and putting him in the Garden of Eden, then creating Eve from Adam's rib. This shows a more personal touch, highlighting how people are connected to nature. The book of Adam and Eve tells much more about how Adam was created, describing how God breathed life into clay. "I will make you living," God said as he shaped the clay. It gives us a bigger picture of Eden, showing paradise as complete and perfect before people arrived. Both stories emphasize that people are special. In Genesis, humans are made in God's image, suggesting we have unique abilities to think and know right from wrong. However, Genesis doesn't give specific roles based on gender. The book of Adam and Eve gives different jobs. Adam is active and strong, responsible for taking care of the garden, while Eve is more passive and curious. "You will tend the garden," God told Adam, "and you will be his helper," he said to Eve. This has influenced how some Christian groups think about relationships between men and women. The story of the fall appears in both accounts. In Genesis, the serpent tricks Eve into eating from the tree of knowledge. She shares the fruit with Adam, leading to them being kicked out of paradise. Though the serpent isn't directly called Satan, its role is obvious. People lose their innocence and ability to live forever, now stuck with death and suffering. The book of Adam and Eve gives much more detail about the fall. The serpent speaks directly to Eve, appealing to her desire for knowledge and to be equal with God. "You will be like God if you eat this," the serpent whispered to Eve. This story puts more blame on Eve for bringing sin into the world, showing her as the first to give in. It also talks about shame and the need for clothes after the fall. Both texts warn about what happens when people disobey and show how complicated human nature is. Genesis highlights God's power and perfect order, showing humanity's unique but sin-damaged place in creation. "Because you disobeyed, you must leave," God told Adam and Eve. The book of Adam and Eve explores the mental reasons behind breaking God's rules, focusing on shame and the beginning of suffering. Some interpretations put more blame on women for sin while supporting men being in charge. These different accounts have caused religious arguments for hundreds of years. Some people see them as different ways of looking at the same event, others as contradictory, raising questions about accuracy and how to interpret them. These stories help us understand, some scholars argue, while others say they can't both be completely right. Regardless, these contrasting creation stories have deeply influenced cultural and religious views, shaping our understanding of human nature, right and wrong, and our relationship with God. Did you like this story? What deeper truths about human nature do you think the tale of Adam and Eve reveals? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Enjoyed the story? Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated. No matter how far we fall, it's through truth, belief, and love that we find the strength to rise again. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next video. Wishing you a wonderful day.